So let's talk about the pyramids, right? And I was recently on Instagram and I saw Samuel. I forgot his name on Instagram, but Samuel something. I'm gonna shout him out. But he was talking about the pyramids and how you know the pyramids had hidden chambers and had secret passageways underneath it, and underneath these pyramids there would be you know uh technology that hasn't been accessed for over 20,000 years. You feel what I'm saying? So really what I'm getting at is the pyramids themselves, right? When you talk about Egypt, the people in Egypt, when you specifically our ancestors in Egypt, they knew the sciences of the cosmos, the sciences of and they knew the inner workings of the mind. And this is the aspect of knowing of Tahuti, but this is also the aspect of creation where you're talking about Ptah, Nun, and Autumn Ra, right? So they knew all the principles, and they knew the the beings that manifested themselves into this reality to create this universe. So when you deal with the Egyptians, this is why all of these different races, when you're talking about between Buddhism, between your Buddhists, between uh, the Romans, the Greeks, and different, all these different groups always came to Egypt because Egypt had the real science. And so, since Egypt knew about spirituality and science and how things commingle with each other, they would they could use these pyramids, and these pyramids, this can be anywhere in the world. They can use these pyramids, have them aligned with certain energies like the constellations, like this is Orion's belt, right? And they can also understand that the pyramid is the square and the triangle, or you're talking about the a three-dimensional object that's connected to a fourth dimensional plane. So you're saying the pyramid itself is a physical manifestation of how light comes down through a prism, because pyramid means fire in the middle. So I'm gonna show y'all something. So when you talk about pyramid comes from pyramids. Pyramid means fire in the middle, understanding how the flame shoots through the middle. You're talking about electricity. So we're talking about electricity and magnetism, or electromagnetism, right? So this pyramid with the capstone, the lime, with the gold capstone and the limestone around it, and the inner workings of the pyramid, they could actually use this energy to reflect off of certain angles of the pyramid and come back in and to create a certain resonance in the field. And just so y'all don't think I'm just talking, an international research group applied theoretical physics methods to investigate the pyramid's electromagnetic response to radio waves. Scientists predicted that under resonance conditions, the pyramids can concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chamber under the base. The research group plans to use these theoretical results to design nanoparticles capable of reproducing similar effects in the optical range, such as nanoparticles may be used, for example, to develop sensors and highly efficient solar cells. So remember, with electromagnetism, you're talking about nanometers and you're talking about wavelengths. So you're talking about how wavelengths can get converted over into particles, or you're talking about into points of existence, or points or dots of creation, right? So, or you're talking about how these energies are like fields. So you're talking about even what they call subatomic particles. So even what they call subatomic particles, or they say from the Latin particula, meaning which means small part or share. Particle comes from the Latin word pairs, meaning part. So it's an understanding that when particles come into existence, it starts as a dot, and then it comes from a dot, and it splits like a daughter cell into two. So what I'm saying is, with subatomic particles, these beings, or the what people call the Elohim, right? The Elohim know how to use the negative space to be able to manipulate the ethers, or you feel what I'm saying? And as they're manipulating this ether, they're able to bend light and cause light to refract. So, and they do it through a prism. So as things go down through prisms of light, or three sets of three, you will have it creating another non-ether dot or egg, or what you call a dot or a point in existence. So, or what you call a newly fashion formed particle, or uh, a field of energy, or what some people call atoms, some people call planets, some people call many different names. But we know that when things come into a physical existence, it has to be the process of a square and a circle. And through this process of a square and a circle, you can create all the other angles. But we know that everything is about the triangle, the square, and the circle. This is why this is why they always talk about the Trinity. This is why they always talk about Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. This is why they always talk about these different things, because these are geometric patterns that come from electromagnetic frequencies. Or you're talking about how you can have tones and vibrations that will create these oscillations will create waves, and these waves will create will bounce off and come back in. So basically, as electromagnetism, as electricity condenses, it will radiate out magnetism. This magnetism will come back in, and as it comes back in, it will create this resonance in the field. So it's an understanding that through through this through this resonance in the field, you can create these different geometric shapes. And you can create, and through creating certain geometric shapes, you can connect to certain frequencies. I mean, you can use these geometric shapes to connect to certain frequencies. So this is what the Egyptians were doing when you're talking about the pyramids. They were able to use the pyramids, or use the light that comes down through the pyramids, right? These not really the best pictures because the light don't stream directly down. It comes down through rays like a sun, and then when it goes in the pyramid, it will refract out and go throughout different parts of the pyramid. But then you're talking about, even the Mayan pyramids is still the same thing. You're talking about how they have the Ark of the Covenant, or this radiation device that will be able to, you know, balance this energy in the middle of the pyramid. And so they will have these ankhs that they use, and these ankhs would be able to manipulate this electromagnetic frequency and be able to help them, do different things like move objects, heavier objects, by manipulating the weight of the objects. Or the density of the objects. They would also be able to, you know, get in. They would, inside of certain chambers, they could actually manipulate you know, the electromagnetic frequencies in the field and make themselves resonate on a higher frequency. As they do this, their bodies could change in different forms. And if they change into different forms of being, meaning they can be more like crystalline or light, they can actually access different realms. So what I'm saying is, they use these the Ankh and these different devices, not the Ankh, I mean the Ark of the Covenant, these different devices to connect down to a certain core of the earth, or I mean a certain part of the mantle of the earth. I think it's the D2 mantle of the earth. As they connect to this part of the earth, they will connect to the magnetic grid of the earth, and this will allow them to have a beam, or close the distance of time and space, and be able to have a wormhole or a portal that will allow them to go to a different star system. So if they wanted to be able to go to a star system in Orion, and then actually go to a certain planet or a certain place in Orion, they would just need to be on that frequency. And that's the understanding, is once they can be on that frequency, like whatever people want to call these negative space, they can actually, close that time space gap, and they can, jump between time and space and actually just walk through the portal and be right there in another realm. So this is what they were doing. And I know y'all gonna say, oh, people gonna say what they say, but y'all take this information, and if it resonates with you, then let it resonate. If it doesn't, and you don't believe me, you don't have to believe me. But I'm just saying, hey, everything doesn't come from a book. Some things come from a book. Approximately, probably 30% of your information come from a book. Then the rest of it has to come from your intuitive nature and your downloads, and when your higher self and the levels of consciousness, higher levels of consciousness, is communicating to you through frequency, through meditation.